Okay, so here is how we're going to create the water cycle out of a water painting. You begin with your clouds that are going to run down as your precipitation with your groundwater and your runoff. Then you're going to have your ocean, which we're going to sprinkle salt on to hopefully create a sort of fireworks effect and differentiate the salt water from all the rest of the fresh water. Then you'll have the evaporation slide on up into your water vapor, which will be blown with a straw to represent the offshore winds back into the clouds, creating an entire cycle. So first thing, you got your piece of watercolor paper, crayon of choice. You're going to begin by creating your beach, and then you're going to have your ocean water. That's all you need for the crayon. First thing, take a sponge. We're not using a paintbrush. I'm going to soak up some water. I'm going to use 3 different colors. I'm going to first start with purple. Doesn't matter which color you choose, this is just my preference. And I'm going to make some clouds. I'm going to squeeze on with this sponge pretty good with the clouds because I'm going to need them to rain. So I'm going to make sure I've got that good and sponged on. And I want the puddles to be wet so that hopefully when I pick it up and tip it, I'll have rain, which runs down into the ocean, into land. So we have our groundwater. See if any more will come down. Might get a few droplets. Alright, I'm going to lay that back down. Next, take my sponge. I'm going to have some blue ocean. And it's a good thing we had some rain go down into the water, so that way you'll actually see some of the blending of colors. So I'm going to take my sponge and paint this on. If it doesn't stay within the lines, that's alright. You want to get it just mostly though, so you have your body of water. Now that I've got my pigment on, I'm going to take some rock salt, which we have ground down because table salt is just a little too fine. I'm going to sprinkle it right onto my ocean. So that way the students have that literal idea in their mind of the salty water. And hopefully it'll make it look different from everything else. Next, we are going to need a clean sponge with just water. So I'm going to soak that up, get some water. And it's very important to start from the top and go down to the bottom, because what's going to happen is as soon as my pool of clear water hits the pigment on the ocean, it is going to soak up that paint and make it go upwards as if the heat were evaporating the ocean water. So I'm going to bring it down, it's going to touch. If you zoom in, hopefully, you'll be able to see the drips going upwards as if it's evaporating. If I do just a little more water here, hopefully it'll help draw it up. If you have more pigment in your ocean, it'll help it draw up more, but you can see how it's starting to draw up in different places. Alright, next, that evaporation is going to create a cloud of water vapor, so I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to go with red. I don't necessarily need a very wet sponge this time because I've got all that water in the pool up there already. Get some of that just dripping it on. And take my straw. And I've got my offshore winds that have blown back into the clouds and over the land. And as you can see in some areas, it connected back with the raindrops, creating our complete cycle. Once that dries, hopefully some of that pigment will be a little darker on the paper once it absorbs, and we will label with our key vocabulary: water vapor, condense, precipitation, groundwater, runoff, and evaporate.